Proposition 53. These are revenue bonds requiring statewide voter approval. It's an initiative constitutional amendment. And this constitutional amendment would require statewide voter approval of revenue bonds that meet all of the following conditions. Revenue bonds sold for a project totaling more than $2 billion, adjusted annually for inflation. Revenue bonds that are sold for a project that is funded, owned, operated, or managed by the state. And revenue bonds sold by the state, as well as certain subdivisions and associations that the state creates. And it would be a constitutional amendment requiring a voter two-thirds vote to repeal the measure. The fiscal impact, relatively, is unknown. It depends on how the state would respond if it passes or if it doesn't. Because if it does pass, then the state would have to find some other ways to fund certain kinds of big major infrastructure projects. Most of the projects that would be funded by $2 billion or more are very large major infrastructure projects. For instance, the California water project or the California rail project linking San Francisco and Los Angeles. So a yes vote, of course, is voting in favor of requiring voter approval before the state could issue more than $2 billion in public infrastructure bonds. And a vote of no would be voting against this proposition. I want to explain that revenue bonds are not repaid out of the general fund of the state. They're paid out of income that comes in from user fees, from the use of the infrastructure itself, from tolls and fees. In support of this proposition are a couple who live in Stockton who donated over $5.5 million to the Yes on Proposition 53 campaign and for putting this proposition on the ballot. It's also supported by the California Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, and a great many county taxpayers associations. And the arguments in favor of this: the politicians and state agencies are currently allowed to borrow billions of dollars in state revenue bond for infrastructure projects without getting voters' approval. Proposition would hold politicians accountable and induce them to provide accurate estimates of the cost of these projects. And it would not impact local projects, the University of California, Green Lake construction, or natural disaster response. And those opposing it, innumerable environmental and agricultural organizations, government organizations like the League of California Cities, Special Districts Association, Jerry Brown, our governor, Chamber of Commerce, State Building and Trades Council, and many others in opposition, and including the San Francisco Promise. The arguments against it: the proposition would impact local control and community infrastructure improvements negatively, and it would require a statewide vote for certain local projects. Proposition 53 is a self-interest proposition, primarily for the interest of the couple who put it on the ballot.